meeting of the Cache Grande Planning and Zoning Commission for February 2nd to order, and please join me for the pledge. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Michelle, call the roll.
Member Aldrete?
Here.
Member Vanderhayden?
Here.
Member Hubbard? Here. Member Peters?
Here.
Member Estrada?
Here.
Vice Chair Garza? Here. Chairman Benedict?
Here. Any changes to the agenda?
No changes, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Commissioners, the minutes, had a chance to review them. Any changes?
Make a motion to approve minutes?
Second.
First and a second. Excuse me. Motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Approved. So we have one item in our consent agenda. These items are considered routine matters, will be enacted in one motion, one vote. If there's anybody from the commission or the public that would like that item to be pulled, you can see it on your agenda. I hope you have it from at the table. Please speak up. Anybody from the public? Seeing none, commissioners?
Chairman, I'll make a motion to approve the consent items, E1.
I'll second.
All right. Motion is second. Call the roll.
Member Aldrete?
Aye.
Member Vanderhayden?
Yes.
Member Hubbard?
Yes.
Member Peters?
Aye.
Member Estrada?
Yes.
Vice Chairman Garza?
Aye.
Chairman Benedict?
Yes. Okay. Item. First piece of new business, a public hearing and request from Ecobat for conditional use permit DSA 2200275. Joseph? Mr. Horn?
That would be me. Ecobat Solutions is requesting a conditional use permit to allow for a lithium battery recycling facility at 1474 North VIP Boulevard. You can see it highlighted on your screen below. Per our city code, a conditional use permit is required to allow for uses involving the storage, utilization, or manufacture of volatile or explosive materials or products. Ecobat will transport expired lithium-ion batteries via truck to be processed at their facility. The material will be offloaded using the existing rear exterior docks through an at-grade overhead door into the warehouse facility. The facility is designed to store and process up to 4 tons of expired batteries. The batteries will first be shredded and pre-sorted, after which the shred will be separated into a couple of different categories of finished goods, including black mass, copper, and aluminum. Those finished goods will then be packaged in super sacks and stored on-site prior to shipping back out. In looking at conformance with the conditional use permit, we cover the following 5 items. For tonight, we're just going to concentrate on a couple items. The rest were covered in your staff report. The first is that the proposed use will have no adverse effect on abutting property. The site's located within an I-2 zone district. It's surrounded by I-1 and other I-2 uses. The area is in an older, more established industrial area of the city and is well suited for this type of use. And as stated in the city code, the purpose of the I-2 general industrial zone is to provide areas for this type of use. The next one we'll cover is that the conditions stated in the approval are deemed necessary to protect the public health, safety, and general welfare. The proposed use will be regulated by other environmental requirements, and they'll get those environmental requirements from other agencies. The applicant has met with both our fire department and our building department to review the operations and layout for the recycling facility. They've also presented a plan for their new new fire sprinkler system to our fire and building departments, and kind of brought a level of comfort with both of those departments. So they will be doing some tenant improvements in the future, and we'll also review those improvements at that time as well. The only conditions that staff is requesting for this conditional use permit is that the applicant provide a 3-foot tall decorative block wall along their frontage along VIP, as it's part of our code requirement now to kind of help block any headlights going out into VIP Boulevard. And then we will ask them to ensure that they update their landscaping up there. They've got some existing materials there, but we'll just get a new final landscape plan prior to certificate of occupancy. In regards to notification, staff met or exceeded all requirements. We did not get any comments on this particular request. So in conclusion, staff recommends the Planning Commission approve the conditional use permit and associated resolution with the following conditions, and those are the same conditions that were presented in your staff report. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Very good. Commissioners, your questions for staff? Seeing none, would the applicant or their representative like to come forward and discuss this with us?
Yeah, go ahead.
Great, appreciate it. Appreciate you coming up. Give us your name and address for the record.
Name is Larry Webb. My address is 1186 East Manor Drive here in Casa Grande.
Great. All right. Anything you'd like to add to presentation?
No, we're really looking forward to putting this facility in. The EcoBat is probably the largest lead-acid battery recycler in the world. They know that lithium is the next step. I'm here as a representative. I currently work in a division of EcoBat. It's called Quametco Metals. It's here in town. We supply products to the mining industry. I've managed that business for about 13 years. We've got a very good safety record. We deal with lead, and I think we've been a good business within the community. And if there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Sure. Commissioners? Yes.
Just one, the existing building, is that got to be modified a lot or expanded, or is it going to be satisfactory the way it is?
There's some upgrades we need to do. The front office area needs to be upgraded. We'll be upgrading all of the fire suppression systems within the building. Basically just bringing a lot of the area up to code, ADA and that sort of thing, but no expansions or anything like that.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Any other questions? How many, got an idea of how many employees will be?
Yes, to start, it'll be approximately Quametco Metals. It'll be about 25 people. We'll run one shift until we can get fully up and running. Eventually, we hope to be a 24/7 operation, which would put us close to 75, 80 people there.
That's great. Very good.
And these are all decent paying jobs too, because what you're doing is, needs attention and some technical aptitude.
Very good. Thank you. Can you roll back to, you had a list of about the process? And I just had a question for my education about, can you describe simply and shortly what black mass is?
Black mass will be all the precious metals, which will be filtered. It'll be like a damp powder. That will go to other factories to pull out all the metals, similar to how the copper mines pull out copper in the tank houses, that sort of thing. Be a hydro process where they can pull out the copper and rare earth metals, all that sort of stuff.
Gotcha. Appreciate that. Commissioners, Anything else? Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate that. Now open the public portion of the meeting is for this subject. Anybody want to speak to this? I'm not sure you know how to do this, sir.
My name's Kirk McCardle. I reside at 9405 North Paseo, Palo Verde. It's actually in the county. I've known Larry Webb. I've known Cometco since they first came to town. I've done business with them in the past. They've been a very good corporate citizen, a very good community citizen. You know people that work there because I've known quite a few people that work there. And, you know, I've gone to them in the past to help with, you know, fundraising for Ride for the Warrior and other fundraisers. And they've been a very good community partner and a very good company to have here. And they're trying to expand. And it's an example of a local business that's trying to grow. And I think this is the kind of thing that we should really support. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you. Anybody else like to address this issue? Seeing none, I'll close the public portion of the meeting and bring it back to commissioners. Any discussion?
Chairman, I'd like to make a motion.
Please.
I'd like to make a motion that the commission approve the conditional use permit and associated resolution DSA-22-00275 with the conditions listed by staff.
I'll second.
Okay, you got a motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, would you call the roll?
Member Aldrete.
Aye.
Member Vanderhayden.
Yes.
Member Hubbard.
Yes.
Member Peters.
Aye.
Member Estrada.
Yes.
Vice Chair Garza.
Aye.
Chairman Benedict.
Yes. All righty. Thank you. Appreciate you. And good luck with the project. We look forward to seeing more of you around the community. We appreciate it. Now on to number 2, we'll hold a public hearing, consider forward recommendation to the council for EPS Group, on behalf of Cash Grant 320 LLC, for a major amendment to the Vista Estates Planned Area Development, DSA 22-00167. Jim?
Good evening. So to orient the planning commissioners with regard to where Vista Estates is located, it's 321 acres of property located at the northwest corner of Interstate 10 and Selma Highway. Hennis Road forms its western boundary, and Selma Highway forms its southern boundary. It's a, like I mentioned, 321 acre PAD, originally approved in 2006. The existing planned area development is shown on the left. It was predominantly single-family residentially entitled. There was a commercial area proposed in the southwest corner of the site near Hennis. And then towards the eastern side of the site, next to Interstate 10, was a 30-acre multifamily residential area, and then an office business park closer to Selma. The applicants are proposing to amend this PAD to revise some of the land uses within this acreage. As you see on the right, the eastern side of the PAD still remains single-family residential. And then as you get closer to the interstate, they have provided a multifamily residential area still. It's shifted to the other side of Camino Mercado. And they've relocated the commercial area closer to the interstate, so it's no longer near Hennis, but it's shifted just to the west of Camino Mercado. And the primary change, however, is you'll see that right along I-10, they have introduced approximately 61 acres for light industrial uses. And what's driving this is utilizing the fact that this site does have certificates of assured water supply, and also taking the opportunity of that interstate frontage to introduce a variety of uses that could potentially attract light industrial type users, with ultimate access to Selma Highway. Ultimately, there's a interchange planned with Selma Highway and I-10. As far as the other changes, the originally approved PAD allowed for a 3.2 single-family dwelling unit per acre density, and so that was going to yield approximately 720 homes. And then a 16 multifamily dwelling unit per acre yield, which would have created about 488 units. This amendment proposes to ascribe to the new PAD residential design standards and general plan goals. So the single-family area now can have up to 4.5 dwelling units per acre. So that could yield possibly up to 839 homes. And then the multifamily area has expanded by 15 acres, and it too is proposing to ascribe to the new density maximums for multifamily. So that would yield approximately 780 units. When reviewing PADs, they're subject to the following criteria, and the staff report goes into each of these in greater detail, but I just want to talk about the two highlighted items. The first is conformance to the city's general plan. So on the left, you see the general plan category map, and on the right is their proposed PAD land use plan. The area in blue is the commerce and business general plan category, and that aligns with where the industrial land use is proposed. Within the commerce and business land use category, light industrial is a supported use as well as commercial. And I should add that the list of allowed uses within that area labeled as industrial include general business type uses, so that there is the possibility of not exclusively light industrial uses in there, but rather some additional commercial. And I would imagine that a lot of that's going to be market driven in terms of potential users being attracted to that site due to I-10 frontage. The majority of the site, however, is within the neighborhoods general plan category. Neighborhoods allows single-family development to have a density up to 4.5 dwelling units per acre. And any development basically on a site larger than 25 acres would be beholden to that 4.5 dwelling unit per acre maximum. And then there's two multifamily areas in the PAD right next to each other. One is a 25-acre site, which our general plan allows that area to have a maximum density of 12 dwelling units per acre. And then there is a 20-acre site just to the north of that that would allow up to 24 dwelling units per acre. As they've arranged the uses, as I mentioned, the single family is toward the east side, and then it transitions to the multifamily and commercial uses as you go, the single family is on the west side, and as you go east, you have the multifamily and commercial uses. Camino Mercado is a collector road, and then on the other side of Camino Mercado is the proposed light industrial area before you get to the interstate. Also, with regard to the general plan, we have our regional trail plan as part of our 2030 general plan, and the eastern boundary is identified for the Casa Grande Linear Park Trail, I-10 segment. And this PAD does plan for that corridor. Essentially, it would involve the Cox Road alignment to be ultimately dedicated for trail purposes. And the city would go in and construct that trail, but the PAD acknowledges that there will be trail connections leading to that area. Also, internal to the PAD, there's a number of other neighborhood trails planned. I know the text boxes are covering it, but you'll notice on the map on the right, there's a diagonal line. That's a gas line easement where a trail is planned within that area as well. The next criteria I want to talk about is the impact of the plan on existing and anticipated traffic conditions. So I mentioned that there is a planned interchange at Selma Highway, and then there's additional roadways that do have plans for extensions. Hennis Road on the west side of the development is designated as a principal arterial, which is planned to ultimately go as far south as I-8 with the future interchange, and as far north as Bella Vista. And then Camino Mercado also bisects the development. It's planned to go as far south as Jimmy Kerr, and right now it's planned to go to Cottonwood Lane. Selma Highway is part of a plan to provide a regional connection from I-10 to the west side of Casa Grande, and it's also identified as a principal arterial. So ultimately, there'll be rights-of-way dedication and roadway improvements to really enhance circulation in this area. With regard to the public notification process, we met that which is required by city code. As a result of the public notification, I did receive 2 inquiries from residents within the Casa Vista neighborhood. That's the single-family residential neighborhood just to the south of Vista Estates on the west side of Mitchell Road. After sending those inquirers the proposed PAD guide and had provided a brief explanation of what the amendment entailed, I did not hear back from either of those contacts. Staff does make a recommendation that Planning Commission move to forward to council a recommendation of approval, subject to some technical modifications and a condition of record that's stated within your staff report. The technical modifications pertain to modifying some of the listed uses within the commercial area and within the industrial area. Staff is recommending that within the commercial area, feed store is eliminated, as well as a sand and gravel use and building material sales yard, and also subjecting daycare or other child facilities not otherwise accessory to a business be subject to a conditional use permit. And then we're also recommending several uses within the industrial area be subject to a conditional use permit, just because they're a little bit more sensitive, and the city sees that there be a good need to regulate those with some potentially other conditions. And then the condition of record pertains to our standard condition that would obligate the owner of the property to dedicate land for public right-of-way if the city needs it prior to when they would otherwise ordinarily dedicate it, which would typically happen at the time of development. And I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Commissioners, questions for staff?
I have a question,
Yep,
Chair.
please.
Do we have anything in our code that relates to phasing of the project? So, I mean, 25, 30% of single-family homes are built. They need to build a park with that. Is there anything in our code that's related to phasing?
So Commissioner Alderette, yes, because when they go to submit their plating for the single-family area, they'll have to meet certain open space requirements for the area that they're plating. They do have the option to phase it. If they didn't phase it and they planned for all of their single-family area in one plat, they'd have to provide that open space when they go to develop that plat. More than likely, because that is quite a large area for single-family, they are gonna probably propose multiple phases, and each phase is going to have to provide the required open space for that phase. With the assumption that if the other phases never happen, the built area will have the requirements necessary to meet the open space minimums.
Thank you.
Very good. Any other questions for staff? Okay, a feed store and a building material sales yard. I guess it just crosses my mind, is Home Depot a building material sales yard?
So that's probably up for some discussion. I would not classify that
I would bring that up,
as
right?
that use. I think it, although it does have that as an accessory to the business, I think it probably falls within our code more as general retail, but that is a large component of it. I don't know if Paul has a different interpretation.
I'd say no. The best example of a building material sales yard we might have is, what's the building material, by Main Street, by the tracks? Is it Coxson's? Right, that's probably, that's that use, right? Which is just, lots of lumber storage outside and material storage outside. So no, Home Depot and Lowe's would not be in that category.
So would that be a similar answer for the feed store, Cal Ranch Tractor Supply?
Correct. They
So
would
same-
not, they
same
would
kind of
not be
answer.
in that category.
Gotcha. Very good, thank you. Commissioners, anything else for staff? Okay, next up is would the applicant or their representative like to come up and speak to us, please? Give us your name and address for the record.
Hello, my name is Brennan Mayer. I live at 10587 Route Lane in Westminster, Colorado. I work for EPS Group, representing the client group and asking for this to be approved. Really want to thank Jim for his presentation. I think that was fairly comprehensive. I'm here to answer any questions you might have.
Okay. Nothing to add to the presentation?
No, I think you
flew all
did a
the way
great
from
job.
From
Colorado.
Colorado.
Somebody asked him something, jeez.
Just wants to get out of the snow. I've heard about it.
No, it's beautiful weather here. I just had to come.
This weekend,
Super Bowl, golf, yeah. Good timing.
Sacrifice to come down. Okay, I get what he's doing. Commissioners, any questions for him?
No thanks.
Very good. All right, thank you. We sure appreciate you. Appreciate you coming on.
Enjoy.
I'm just kidding. Okay, open the public portion of the meeting. Anybody from the public like to address this issue? Seeing none, we'll close the public portion, bring it back to the commission.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion if we can.
Very good.
I move to forward to City Council recommendation of approval of DSA 22-00167, an amendment to the Vista Estates pad, subject to the following technical modifications and conditions that we have on record.
I have discussion, actually. I would like to discuss this one a little bit more.
Well, let's get do we have a second?
Go.
Do we have a second?
Do not,
Second?
do not.
Second.
Mr. Peter, second. Discussion.
All right. I'm going to say I completely agree with this. I think industrial next to I-10 is a great use, and especially with the planned interchange. Currently, I think my biggest concern is in the interim of an interchange, and where should, obviously, market's going to dictate whether an industrial user locates in the industrial space, but should an industrial user make that pencil out, and then they locate there, their best access to the 10 is through Jimmy Kerr, and that's only about 2 miles away, which pretty close site for industrial user. They would end up going down Selma, more than likely, towards Hennis, because to get to the 10 going the other direction on Selma is about 11 miles. So if they were to go to Hennis and down, or even Mitchell and down, you're crossing through residential areas currently. I know Selma's planned for 140-foot right-of-way, and that would definitely help, but as it currently stands, we don't know when that's gonna happen, and we also don't know when the interchange is gonna happen. And so I do have concerns as the traffic that an industrial user, should they end up locating in that industrial space before an interchange happens, or any of these roadway improvements happen, that they might be negatively impacting current residential uses south of the site, and then north of Early and south of Florence, and then also about a quarter mile north of the site along Hennis, Those are all cause areas. And so they're more than likely going to develop as residential, as our general plan is trying to fill those areas and infill development. So it would be an industrial island surrounded by residential neighborhoods without an interchange. And so that's where I kind of have some concerns just for that interim period. And so that's where I would like to make a motion to add a condition to the industrial uses within the pad to kind of eliminate some fears of traffic that may happen, especially for those residential uses. That condition would be at time of development, as part of the traffic impact analysis, uses listed under Section 6 of the Vista Estates pad that are not listed under permitted uses of Section 5 of the Vista Estates pad shall evaluate the uses required tractor-trailer parking and staging that will be maintained on site.
So you're moving to amend this.
Yes.
Would you read that again?
At time of development, as part of the traffic
So,
impact analysis.
Let me back up. So you're proposing to put that as part of the conditions?
Yes, so,
Very good. I just want
okay.
my mind clear, be sure that we're all clear you want to add that to the conditions.
Yes.
So go ahead and read it again.
At time of development, as part of the traffic impact analysis, uses listed under Section 6 of the Vista Estates pad that are not listed under permitted uses of Section 5 of the Vista Estates pad shall evaluate the uses required tractor-trailer parking and staging that will be maintained on site.
Okay? That's your motion.
That is my motion.
Very good. Do I hear a second?
I'll second it.
Okay? Okay, we have a motion to amend and discussions on the amendment. Commissioners, thoughts? I would like to hear staff's if staff has any comments about that.
First off, I'm going to say that I would share Commissioners Alderet's concern about having adequate transportation for the industrial uses, right? It's certainly, we need better transportation network than just Mitchell to support that kind of traffic, absolutely. And it's all has to do with timing of this development and timing of that road construction, which none of us really know. So first off, I do share that concern, and it's something that we certainly will need to look at, even without this condition, at time of major site plan, where we always require a traffic impact analysis. We look at whether or not the existing street network is adequate to handle the traffic generated by the proposed development. Having said that, I guess I listened to your amendment to the PAD, but I don't understand how that amendment relates to traffic generation and the adequacy of the existing roadway network. Can you explain that a little bit?
So, I mean, the roadway network was more so, should an industrial user come there, those facilities would be improved along the pad area, but not much else. And so as a way of just being able to regulate the amount of truck activity in the area because of those industrial users being there and their potential to put additional wear and tear on the roads from unregulated parking, the amendment would evaluate a use's potential impact on sorry, it would be evaluating a use's impact. Sorry, I'm just getting flustered.
That's okay. So you're really addressing the parking of semis?
Yes.
Along roadways?
Yes, to reduce the traffic, the problem with traffic from industrial users in this area without adequate roadways and the potential for unregulated parking and other additional, sorry, I'm just getting a little flustered. But yes, so basically the unregulated parking which comes with industrial uses. I think we tend to see this on interchanges quite often around Casa Grande, but also on rights of way in the city. And so by having an industrial user there, the amount of truck traffic that would be coming to the site would increase the amount of truck traffic in the area, and to reduce the impact on the residential neighborhoods around the area, this would evaluate the need for parking on site so that those tractor trailers can park on site at the industrial use rather than any of the neighborhoods around the area.
So if I understand what you're trying to avoid and address is, for example, today we might see some semi-trailers and semi-trucks parked along McCartney Road, just to the east, to the west of that interchange. We might see some parked along Peart Road, right?
Yes.
Even some down on Peart, south of Florence, right?
Yes.
So you're really trying to address that issue,
Yeah,
right?
in the immediate neighborhoods around
Right,
an industrial site.
So probably that kind of parking may not even occur within the boundaries of this pad, right? It might be on Mitchell, south of here, whatever. And so that's really more of a traffic control kind of thing where our traffic engineer could sign streets for no parking, or even identify truck routes, right? Where trucks can't go unless they're making local deliveries. So I'm not sure if that condition really would be appropriate on the zoning. It's certainly something that we can evaluate at each major site plan, whether or not there's adequate parking for both the employees and the customers and their trucks, right?
Yeah.
But we would, that's kind of a matter of course. We always do that anyway. So those are just my observations on the condition.
Yeah, and just to add to that, oh, sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
The one reason I did want to include this is because when I looked at our parking standards, we currently don't require any type of tractor trailer parking in industrial uses. And there is a lack of tractor trailer parking throughout the United States. And if we're going to continue developing as a much more industrial city, and which our general plan is definitely pointed towards, that we should also look at those impacts that those industrial uses are creating and look to find ways to head those off prior to a site plan or anything getting brought to the city.
I certainly share Commissioner Alderet's concerns about semi-truck parking, and my hope is that somebody will build a truck stop in Casa Grande where that semi-truck parking can occur, and I think we've been talking to some people about doing that, but we certainly have a need for that. You're right.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. I mean, but it's a very hard thing to regulate where they park, because they'll buy a home in a subdivision and they're gonna park close to their subdivision so they can stay overnight and then go on their way. But it's a sensitive topic amongst both parties, the truck drivers and the residential communities. But I agree, it's a problem the county has as well. I just don't know if you can hold that to this property owner, because you would never be able to know whether the trucks parking in the neighborhoods belonged to the industrial use, right?
And I think more so what this amendment's trying to do is create conditions on site that would allow those trucks to park at that site rather than near the site. And so if they're finishing up their trip, and one thing with doing some research on this, most tractor trailer truckers, they park within about 10 miles of the site that they are making their delivery to. So the industrial use being there within 10 miles of that, there are quite a bit of residential neighborhoods. And if you want to get as close to your site as possible, you might end up parking in those areas. So being able to provide parking on site, so when they get there, they can park at that site rather than anywhere around it, near it. That's my intent with this amendment.
Could I suggest maybe a little more simpler approach that goes something like this? That a requirement, it'd be an amendment to the PAD, but it'd be a requirement that any industrial user that involves deliveries provide adequate parking for semis on their site.
Yeah, that'd be the most simple. I was trying to make it specific to just the industrial uses, because they do include the commercial within Section 6, and I didn't want to include any of the commercial, but I did want to include just the industrial. And so that's where the whole first half is really getting to just the
So
industrial.
we could just say any industrial uses that involve semi-deliveries, provide adequate semi-parking on their site. Just make that, would that work for you?
Yeah, that'd be fine.
We can implement that at a staff level, right? That when we get a major site plan for industrial users.
Did you have one question?
I don't have any questions, but I was wondering if the applicant would like to address any of this.
We understand the concern. Obviously, you know, the community has experienced it all over the country, like you mentioned. I think that we are happy to follow whatever guidance that the council or, sorry, commission gives us.
Okay, thank you.
I mean, my thought, this is still open for discussion, y'all, so my thought about that, I mean, it's, here we are, I'm trying to pick, okay, so is it better to be very general, or is it better to be very specific? If you get too general, then you don't really have a rule. If you get too specific, then it doesn't apply, it makes it hard to apply. And I guess I'm kind of a little bit.
Conflicted, yeah.
Yeah, I agree with you that it's hard to, yeah, and to make it part of this person, this particular, one entity's issue when it's not,
Well,
it's not specifically their issue, it's a very general. I get where you're going, that if they're gonna cause it, they need to help alleviate it. It's tough, that's a tough issue.
Yeah.
But it seems like the timing isn't quite right yet to be specific, because as the director said, when these people come to us for specific plans, that would be the time to address these and parking issues. That way, you can be specific to that site. I mean, there's gonna be different developments and everything there, so.
That's where I'm at. It's hard to determine what the use is gonna be. There's so many listed in that
Right.
industrial zoning that it could be just delivery in and out to where there's no need for parking, right? But it's hard to say what it would be.
Or maybe Phoenix Mart will let them park in their Canyon Mall area then. That's close. Plenty of spaces.
There's a lot of concrete out there.
The other thing for the commission's consideration is, although Commissioner Alderette is correct that our parking code does not address semi-parking, we do have a major site plan review criteria that speaks to whether or not we have adequate parking on the property. So we have more of a subjective review criteria which we can apply to these industrial users that need semi-parking to require it. So we have the authority in the code to require semi-parking when we need it for individual users, even though the parking code specifically may not address it.
And that what stage would that be addressed?
Major site plan.
To Commissioner Peters' point, I think.
Right, yeah, at that point, yeah. So how do we move forward with this?
Well,
Got a vote?
yeah,
I'd also just like to point out, this being a pad, it is a zone, and with that being a zone, I think we should put those rules of that zone out there so that when an industrial user comes through, they may not see it in the code or interpret the code that way, but they see within this pad, if they want to be an industrial user, that they're going to have to show that they can provide adequate parking on their site. And that being part of the zone, rather than they come to this pad, they find there's an industrial use, they talk to the city, they go through a site plan review, city says, well, you're generating this much, we would like you to have this much parking. Just, this is heading it off before it even gets to that point, knowing that they need to provide that parking before they go try to develop anything, before they try to purchase anything. that rule is there in this pad.
That's why we pay those planners big bucks, though. I think the property owner, I mean, they're responsible to do that research before they get to that point.
Yeah.
More than a zoning requirement. I think they should meet with the city before they decide to purchase.
Any input from our engineering staff on this issue?
No, Commissioner and Chairman, Mr. Chairman, following up with our director, that when it comes to that point, we will be able to put the positive signage, and that will be augmented by enforcement. But during the major site plan, we have to decide what we do about the parking. So as per the engineering, only thing we can do is give them guidance if we want to restrict them going from certain residential area. But if they don't have enough parking, they will end up going it, and then it will be up to the enforcement.
Gotcha.
Monir, do you agree that the parking ordinance could use some work, some revamp as far as commercial truck traffic? And
Sorry, can you repeat?
the parking ordinance, is it too vague the way it sits today? Does it need some help?
Parking ordinance, what I saw before, it is for more of like a, not the semi trucks, it's for smaller vehicles. But during the major site plan, as director mentioned, that we can probably write something in that line. And in future, maybe you would like to have something
It
coded.
would be nice to have it looked at again.
I can see where a business can plan for their own vehicles, but they can't plan for common carriers. I mean, you go over to Walmart, and there's 15 trucks on Ash Avenue on a Monday, and there's 2 on a Wednesday. You can't plan on that. That's just what the supplies are coming in. I think the parking would only be for their own fleet, right? It can't be common carriers, because they're just coming into town to drop off and leave, so.
All right, lots of good discussion. Anything else? Okay, so we have a motion to amend, motion and a second, and to make that amendment, and I guess without any more discussion, still open, hearing none, would you call the roll?
Member Aldred?
Aye.
Member Vanderhayden?
No.
Member Hubbard?
Yes.
Member Peters?
No.
Member Estrada?
No.
Vice Chair Garza?
Nay.
Chairman Benedict?
No. Okay, the amendment has failed, we're back to the original motion. Everybody got that motion in their minds, what
Yes.
that is, it's written down. In case you wanna know, it's written down. All right, very good, any more discussion on the motion? All right, so, call the roll, please.
Member Aldred?
Aye.
Member Vanderhayden?
Yes.
Member Hubbard?
Yes.
Member Peters?
Aye.
Member Estrada?
Yes.
Vice Chair Garza?
Aye.
And Chairman Benedict?
Yes. All right, motion passes, thank you, appreciate you coming all the way from. Get some more snow, keep that snow coming, brother, we love that snow on y'all up there. All right, very good discussion, thank you all. All right, next is public comments, any general comments from the public?
Public left.
Floor is open, seeing none, close the public portion. Mr. Director, reports.
So under minor site plans administratively approved, we did approve an amendment to the site plan for the Casa Grande Crossing apartment complex. That's the one that's happening on Camino Mercado. They wanted to modify their gates, so that was approved. City Council took action on a number of your recommendations regarding zone changes, and they approved them all. And we've provided you with your monthly development center reports, and that's all I have to report.
All right.
Only 3 building permits, huh, Paul?
Just 3 single-family homes.
Wow.
That was pretty shocking, actually.
Yeah.
to that, okay. Development reports are there. Do we need a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second? All in favor?
Aye.
We're adjourned.